Welcome back everybody to the third and final race of the evening here at Silverstone National Circuit for rounds 10, 11 and 12 of Season 2 of the 2014 BSR Carrera Cup. Scott Woodwis and Marcus Naris calling all the shots here for you for this third and final race of the evening. So, for those who are watching in race number 2, you'll see plenty of action, plenty of overtaking, plenty of side-by-side action. Very close top 10, one or two controversial incidents. Race that practically had everything, and at the end of it all, Stefan Hug winning the race as well, taking another race victory. I believe only his second of the season, but just that word consistency ringing in everyone's ears, especially is the case for Stefan Hug. Interestingly enough, of course, we have Michael Stevens on pole position, and Marcus, we need to talk about this, of course, a little bit more before we get to the start of the race. The fact that we touched on it very briefly at the end of the broadcast for race 2, a lot of top drivers starting outside the top 10 are going to find themselves battling up through the field, and the most crucial thing about the start is these guys seeing how many places they can make up, because where they find themselves by the end of lap 1, it's going to set them up for the rest of the race in terms of how much work they're going to have to do in order to try and get themselves into potential decent point scoring position towards the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that tightrope you've got to walk, and it's going to be very, very difficult for some of these guys. They've got to be hard and aggressive off the line, as you say. You've got to clear as many cars as you can when they're in their slowest, and they're at their slowest as they're coming off the start line, and the field's sorting itself out through the first 2 or 3 corners. That said, if you get carried away and you get a little bit too adventurous, a little bit too aggressive, you're really going to have problems. You know, it's going to end in tears. Unfortunately, usually not just for the driver that is trying to make the places up. There's usually a couple of innocent bystanders. So I certainly hope that while we get some aggressive racing and we get good spectacle, that there's that level of respect, and everyone tries their hardest to make sure that everybody racing around them makes it to the end as well.
The man that's, of course, starting on pole position for us tonight. Looking back in the championship, is the way he currently sits at the moment. If I have a look. Michael Stephen, he's not really. He's in 10th, no race victories, but he's only finished 8. He's only finished one non-finish. But before tonight, he had 4 top 5 finishes and 5 top 10 finishes in total. Currently sitting in 10th on the standings, 389 points, 134 off the championship lead. How crucial is it going to be for Michael for this race to take full advantage of pole position? Because we saw Robert Plumley, of course, started on the front row. And was able to hold on to a second place as he kept his cool and he raced as hard as he felt he needed to, rather than racing as hard as he felt he had to, and was obliged to because of the fact that he was in such a high position. Do you think that's the same strategy is going to work for Michael Stephen if he can keep his cool and show that pace and actually keep it on the road in this third race in order to secure his first race victory of the season and give him some much needed points in the championship?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a very big ask, to be honest with you. He did very, very well in that second race to make his way up through the field, but that said, he was quite fortunate that his car was still pointing in the right direction at the end. There was lots and lots of contact on that race up through the field, and I think he rolled the car twice after contact with a recovering Dion Phillips, so there was damage to that car that would have seen a Sherman tank limping home, and somehow he still got it over the line. He needs to keep it clean. If he can keep it clean and get away, then I don't think there's anybody else in the top 5 that can touch him for pace.
I said, never underestimate Michael Stephen to get a car home no matter what condition it's in, because he always seems to pull out a gargantuan effort and manage to get it home. Even if it's got all 4 wheels off of it, he'll find a way to get it across the line, yeah, I'm sure.
It was a hell of an effort to bring it home, it really was. As I say, I was watching the replay after the race and we didn't realise, but it actually, as well as going round a few times, it went over a couple of times, so it was a gargantuan effort to even get that thing anywhere near the finish line.
And also somebody else to look out for in this race, of course, is the man that finished in 3rd in race 2, Matt Malone. If you want to see how he gets on in this race from his point of view, then be sure to check out his twitch.tv stream very quickly as the cars are about to come to the end of warm-up and go towards the third and final race. It's twitch.tv/showdown1983. It'll be his live on-board feed from Twitch, so if you want to see the race from an alternative point of view, then head over there and be sure to catch all the action from how he sees it. But Looking at the warm-up times, it is no surprise to see Michael Stephen top with a 54.388 as the cars begin to head towards the grid for the start of the race. And if we have a look, we'll be able to tell you exactly. Try and rectify that one quickly. Let's see if it'll load up for you in a second.
Yeah, but usual suspects up top. So Michael Stephen, Alain Tessier, Gary Toole, Stefan Hug, the 4 fastest guys in warm-up there. And as the cars take to the grid now, you know, they're going to be really, all of them, Stephen at the front and the rest of the guys back down the field are going to be trying as hard as they can to get away as well as they possibly can do.
What's intriguing also, your own Kaiser is going to be starting from the front row of the grid as well. Of course, Cyril Thomas and Dion Phillips, the man he was leading for quite a while. So these guys are no slouch at all. And of course, Matt Malone back in 8th, Stefan Hug in 9th and 10th as well. So all to play for in this third one. Some big names now down the bottom of the field. As we wait for the revs to come up. Lights are out, and for this third race we're away. A super getaway. Look at that from Michael Stephen. Dumps the clutch and floors it, and it's a perfect getaway for the 305 machine. Down towards Copse Corner for the first time. Your own Kaiser will hold it in second with Cyril Thomas to his inside in the 888 machine as they head down towards the Maggots complex. And look at them, they're 2-3 abreast. The pack surges down towards Maggots for the first time, and Cyril Thomas already looking to the outside of your own Kaiser as they head onto the back straight for the very first time. Stephen with an awesome getaway. Look at the gap he has already, Marcus. Perfect start for the 305 machine.
Yes, exactly what he would have wanted. It was a great start. He got away early, and now what he's going to see is he's going to be able to enjoy your own Kaiser and Cyril Thomas fighting amongst themselves, and he'll be hoping beyond hope that Dion Phillips gets caught up in that battle as well, because I think out of the top 4, the only person who's even remotely close to Michael Stephen in terms of raw pace is Dion, so he'll be hoping that Dion struggles with the 2 guys battling in front of him.
Huge going on just in front of Andy Smythe and Matt Malone as they come across the line, and we'll see exactly how they will shaken out after the first lap. So Michael Stephen leads it by about 8.5 tenths of a second from Cyril Thomas in 3rd, Dion Phillips is 4th, and then it's now Jose Almeida in 5th, Daryl Taylor it's Paul Thurston 5th, Jose Almeida 6th, whoa, and William Barnard almost running to the back of Daryl Taylor for 7th place. Stefan Hug is only up to 9th, and Ian D. Smythe is rounding out the top 10 already. Matt Malone has dropped 3 spots to 11th, and Robert Plumbing also dropping back already in 12th position in the number 147. Now watching Daryl Taylor, he's under attack from William Barnard, and the 306 car trying to go force his way up the inside and force the issue. He's going to try to the outside now, slightly later braking move into Luffield, again holding the outside line to Taylor's left, but can't get it done. But he will have the slipstream down onto the pit straight to start lap number 3. Now the gap this time, your own Kaiser's brought it down by 2 tenths of a second at the front to 6 tenths of a second, with Cyril Thomas a further 4 tenths back. It seems as though, Marcus, that your own Kaiser, even though we haven't talked about him very much in the first 2 races, he's making an impact in his 3rd race and certainly has the pace to keep with leaders. Have you lost something in the background, I think? Now, we've lost somebody who's gone off in the background up at Copse Corner. Couldn't quite see who it was, but possibly might have caused a bit of chaos in the midfield.
Yeah, possibly did Jerome Kaiser a disservice there. He certainly, shaking off Cyril Thomas, he certainly seems to have the pace to put Michael Stephen under pressure, and as you say, it's 6 tenths of a second that last lap. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like going forward.
So, you say he's shaking him off, but Cyril Thomas looking visibly closer at the end of this 3rd lap to see possibly if he can get himself into 2nd place. The 2nd and 3rd have broken away from the best of the rest in 4th. Dion Phillips not running at the same pace he was in race 1. But then again, of course, Richard Wild was setting quite a good pace. And speaking of Richard Wild, he is down in 18th position and moving his way up through the field as best he can, because he is up there in the number 70 machine, chasing after Craig Burleson in the number 20 to make a move, but still retains a position in the top 20 as on lap 4 of 18. And oh, there goes Cyril Thomas! Cyril Thomas into the barriers, getting a little bit too eager with that right foot on the exit of Maggots and straight into the inside wall. And as the pack pours past him, that is possibly a great grid position off the 2nd row wasted for Cyril Thomas.
Yeah, but it's easy to do. We've seen quite a few guys do it tonight. We saw Michael Stephen do it himself in that first race. It's so easy in these things just to get a little bit too over-eager, and once they go, you're not going to catch it.
Well, he's limping back. He's dropped outside the top 20 already. It's because he's fallen way back into about 23rd position. So unfortunate times for the 888 machine. but a valiant effort nonetheless to last as long as he could. But sometimes the pressure just gets you, and just a little bit over ego, as we said, with that right foot. And these rough RC12 track spec cars will just go around on you the second you take liberties with them. So, unfortunately, Paul Silver Thomas has paid the price, and he's now back at the pits, possibly looking for a fast tow and a quick repair to get himself back into the race, as we're only on lap 5 of 18. Now, if we look back towards the front, Michael Stephen now has a second advantage over Jeroen Kaiser in second place. Dion Phillips sticking with him in third. And Paul Thurston now, again, these two never seem to have been away from each other all race weekend. Paul Thurston and Jose Almeida just almost running in tandem with each other in the first two races. And once again, in fourth and fifth position, are in close proximity to each other across the line, only by about a quarter of a second. Race 2 winner Stefan Hug in sixth, with Ian D. Smythe in 7th place and hunting him down, of course, a major championship contender. Darrell Taylor is heading up a small group, which is now consisting of him, Willem Barnard, Alan Tessie, and Matt Malone's in there as well. Then you've got Daniel Hunt, and also Gary Toole, William Boter, Craig Burleson, and also here comes Tessie down the inside of Barnard. There's contact, Barnard goes around, and another risky move there from Tessier. I'm sure the stewards may want to have a look at that again, as Barnard rejoins, but has dropped behind Tien Dames, and I think now 20th position. But these guys seem a little bit too eager out there in race 3, either mistakes for themselves or just running into incidents with others that really they shouldn't be making.
Yeah, again, that was one of those. In fairness to Tessier, Barnard ran a little bit off the apex, and when you've got someone as quick as Alan Tessier parked right behind you, if you run wide at an apex, you've got to expect that he's just gonna park his car up the inside of you, which is exactly what Tessier did. And to be frank, Tessier was probably a little bit too anxious, but certainly Barnard didn't try and give him any room, certainly didn't try and make life easy for him. So I don't think we can heap too much blame on Tessier for that one. I think it was just two guys just racing a little bit too hard.
Well, Tessier, as a result, has dropped down to 12th place. He's battling away with Gary Toole in the 19 machine, so they're going to head down. But look at the gaggle of cars we've got down here. We've got head 25 and Daniel Hunt, Gary Toole, Alan Tessier. And look at this also, Richard Wilde battling with Jean-Christophe Goddard and Craig Burleson and William Boter. And they're all going side by side, and almost Richard Wilde almost getting run off the circuit. It's a miracle he hasn't managed that one just yet, but Richard Wilde certainly battling hard to keep up with this pack in front of him as they head back onto the pit straight once again. And looking back towards the front very quickly, Michael Stephen still currently leads, but now he's extended the gap out to 1.8 seconds at the front as they head onto lap 8 of 18. So we're heading in towards half distance already. And as we said, Michael Stephen given a clear chance to take the race winning, Marcus, and so far taking it up with aplomb.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's in his element. He's just able to turn hot lap after hot lap, and he's under no pressure, and he's got no other problems. So, he can really focus his full attention on just making sure that, he keeps that thing on the circuit and keeps pumping in good times. And he's doing exactly what he needs to do. And as we said, a lot of the other quick guys seem to be caught up fighting amongst themselves in that battle that's going on for, between 9th and 15th place. The only person who's really close to him that is a recognised front runner is Stefan Hug, who, as we speak, just moves up into 5th place now.
Now, Matt Malone's made a mistake somewhere through the Luffield complex, and he has got that pack all over the rear end of his number 25 machine. And there goes Gary towards the outside. Oh, and Daniel Hunt makes contact, and also involved as well. It's all because of Goddard. It's all gone wrong, as Richard Wilde also collects the 25 and then collects him again and puts him onto his roof. And, well, there's not much more you can say about that, Marcus, but utter chaos.
Yep, not ideal. It just shows when you're running as close as these guys are, one person getting it ever so slightly wrong, one little bit of contact, and it's 4 or 5 cars out of the race. And I'm looking at poor old Matt Malone, and he's going to have to park that. It's absolutely destroyed. And
such a shame, as of course he managed that 3rd position, and of course it was all started when Gary Toole just nudged the rear of him, and of course it sends off that chain reaction. I know Daniel Hunt was involved, Goddard was involved as well. Richard Wilde collected Malone twice. I think the man that fortunately got out of that relatively unscathed, even was that surprising, was Alan Tessier. So he's up there now into 10th position. And as the pack shakes itself out after that incident, here's Tessier who is in 10th and Gary Toole still in 9th, but the rest of them all falling down the order. I think that incident actually lost 4 cars, or at least pushed them way down the order.
Yeah, in fact, it pushed Jean-Christophe Goddard off the circuit. It was such a severe impact. He cleared the barriers completely. Ended up the wrong side of the catch fencing, but you know, in reality, you know, Dan Hunt isn't a dirty driver, but he'll know that he's gone steaming in there probably a little bit too keen, and has just, you know, not been able to get out of the throttle quickly enough to account for the fact that there was a slight touch in front of him. Nothing that could really be done, but again, this many guys running in that close a situation, it's, you know, it's often going to end in tears.
Michael Stephen with a 3-second lead up at the front, but second place could be up for grabs between the 23 of Johan Kaiser and the man who led race 2 for so long, Dion Phillips, in the 015, and they were only about a quarter of a second away from each other. Oh, as Kaiser must have heard me, because he's dropped it a little bit on the exit of Maggots and straight around the outside. Sails Dion Phillips. Thank you very much, Jerome. Second place is mine in the bag.
Yep, and as we said, he's the only guy really in the top 4 with the pace to match Michael Stevens. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those lap times over the next couple of laps. That said, I think they've been fighting for so long now. It's going to be virtually impossible for him to make up 3 seconds in 7 laps.
Just seen Stefan Hug give Paul Thurston a small nudge for 4th position. Thurston in the number 50 machine still 4th. Stefan Hug 5th, and then we've also got still Jose Almeida keeping close for company in 6th position, and also just back a further 7/10 back is Ian D. Smythe. As Johan Kaiser getting really wide on the exit of Cops Corner and kicking up a little bit of dust over across the grass, but now that he's dropped behind Dion Phillips, he's now starting to join up at the front of this Conga, should we say. It's now a 5-car train as they fight over what is now 4th position, 3rd position. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th altogether.
Stephen's starting to hit the traffic as well. He's got Vittorio Saltalamacchia in front of him, who has been struggling ever since he rear-ended Laura Bond really hard on lap 1. And Cyril Thomas is just a little bit further up the road, so Stephen will be hoping he can clear this traffic without incident.
Just also watched Gary Tall get a little bit out of shape, and we've lost. I think was that William Botha? It was William Botha, I think. No, it wasn't. It was, sorry, apologies, it wasn't. It was there was a car on the exit left, but I'm pretty sure that must have been there might have been Tian Dames. I think it was Tian Dames, because he was off on the outside of the outside on the grass on the exit of the woodcut. So obviously something's happened to him at some point. But Michael Stephen, of course, despite having to fight his way through the traffic, is still holding on to the 3.9 second advantage.
We've lost Kaiser completely. Kaiser's heavily damaged and back in what looks like 13th place now. So I'll go back and have a look at that. But certainly the top 3 as they run now is Stephen, Dion Phillips, and Jeroen Kaiser's a long way down the field in a badly damaged car.
So it's now another battle for 3rd place between Paul Thurston in the 50. He's found himself in a very fortunate position, but for how much longer? Because he really is resisting a lot of pressure, as did, of course, as did Robert Plumley in race 2 in this situation, holding on to a podium place with a raft of fast drivers behind him, headed up by Stefan Hug. Hug could have a chance here, of course, in the next few laps, and of course give Stefan Hug an inch, and he will take a mile.
Yeah, Kaiser, unfortunately, he did exactly what he did the previous lap when you called in commentary, that he'd gone a little bit too wide going through the first turn there at Copse. He did exactly the same thing this lap, but unfortunately didn't get away with it. He ran out of luck, was very, very wide again, and couldn't hold on to it, just spun it round, and it spat him into the wall. So his race is definitely run. That car's very, very broken.
Ian D. Smythe up the inside of Jose Almeida for 5th position, and as that happened, Stefan Hug was lining up.
Yeah, Stefan Hug's put in Paul Thurston under some serious pressure, but he's got some pressure behind him from Jose Almeida, who they're only half a second behind. Almeida is having fun and games with Ian D. Smythe just behind him. And these 4 cars are starting to get very, very tightly bunched together. And they're really starting to struggle. And it looks like we've lost Dion Phillips as well. I saw a car pulling off, going into Beckett. I wasn't sure who it was. I went back and had another look, and it's Dion Phillips. And Dion Phillips, out of 2nd place, is just completely... well, I don't know what he's done. He's just pulled it off the circuit, parked it, and stopped. Very strange. Yeah, I can't see any physical or visible damage. So we've just lost Dion Phillips out of second place, so a strange one there, Scott.
I did notice there was a car pulling off, but I honestly thought that was a lapped car. I didn't think at all for a second it would be Dion Phillips, but I knew Dion's car is the same colour. It is a black machine rather than anything else. But I think, as you may have done, Marcus, I thought it was somebody who was a lapped car. So, but incredibly then, so we've lost Dion Phillips, and through all of that, also Stefan Hug has found a way past Paul Thurston and is immediately pulling a gap on him. It means that Stefan Hug again is once again looking for that consistent finish, another podium to add to his collection. Not necessarily the man who's won the most races, but the man who's been the most consistent with those podium and top 5 finishes, and it will help once again strengthen his championship lead. Now, Paul Thurston behind in 3rd place. If I can switch to his view in a second. Here we go. Now, Paul Thurston in 3rd. He's now still got Jose Almeida there for company, as we said before, as he has done for practically the entire race weekend. In fact, these two have never really been separated that much. But Ian D. Smythe did briefly get ahead of Jose Almeida, but then looks like he may have run wide a couple of laps ago up at Cops Corner, which allowed Jose Almeida back through to make the pass. And just behind also we've got a great battle going on between Gary Toole and Alan Tessier for 6th, and Gary Toole's just been holding on somehow with a few shaky exits on some corners, which has allowed Tessier to keep close. And right now Tessier's got a great run down the back straight towards Brooklands Corner, so ahead of the final lap markers, it could be all changed for several positions in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Tessier is all over the back of Gary Toole, and he'll be very, very keen to make up as many places as he can. Likewise, Ian D. Smythe ahead of him is now monstering Jose Almeida. Those two guys are very, very close, with Paul Thurston just ahead of him in 3rd place. So, to be fair, the only top positions that look safe are the top 2 going into this last lap. From 3rd all the way down to 7th place, it's all up for grabs.
Well, the man that we've hardly talked about, Michael Stephen, is onto the back straight for the final time. He's making his way through some lap traffic, including, I think it looks as though the Triple Eight of Cyril Thomas, who was up there for so long in the opening couple of laps to try and get himself involved in the lead fight, but he's going to come towards Brooklands and then round Luffield for the final time. We said if he could keep it on the road and not throw it off into the scenery, then he'd be able to be absolutely dominant and set a blistering pace. Well, he's done just that. He seems to have listened when in races 1 and 2 he didn't. Round the final corner through Woodcote, Michael Stephen finally takes that race victory. Race 3 here at Silverstone goes to him and the 305 machine. Stefan Hug is going to take 2nd place, but it's all about that battle for 3rd place downwards as they come across the line. It's Stefan Hug who wins it. He gets 2nd place. And Paul Thurston looks like he has managed to get 3rd place, just ahead of Jose Almeida 4th, and Ian D. Smythe has to settle for 5th, with Gary Toole winning out the battle between himself and Alan Tessier for 6th and 7th. Darrell Taylor is going to finish up in 8th spot in the 22, with Andy Shield in the 0079, and then Craig Burleson rounding out the top 10 in the 20. The rest of those positions, William Barnard, some impressive driving at some point, just got caught up in unfortunate incidents and has to settle for 11th spot. In then 12th place, Stephen Burke in the 29. The 613 Benjamin Gregory, who has such a strong force back at Daytona last week, only managing 13th in race 3. With William Pinar in 14th with his rather damaged car also. William Botha 15th. Max Lebarak 16th. Tony McCallum 17th in the 27, who's trying to mount another RT12 at some point. Someone's trying to mount him, but I'm not sure what's going on track between those two. Robert Plumley, 18th spot. Not as great a drive in race 3 as he had the previous one when starting from pole position. But still, it's up there in the top 20 at least. Anthony Woodward, a very quiet run into 19th place, number 35. And Richard Wilde, the man who changed the outcome of the race at the end of race 2, only managing 20th, but still inside the top 20. And some of the other major guys that didn't get as great results as they could have done, 22nd place for Cyril Thomas in the Triple Eight. The 07 of Daniel Hunt, only 23rd after that incident. Jeroen Kaiser retired early on. And some more big names in there as well. Scott Malcolm, Jean-Christophe Goddard, Matt Malone, Dion Phillips, Nick McCarron, Tian Damas and Laura Bond not even finishing, or at least a lap down. And Marcus, we said that race 3 would be fast and furious and potentially the best race of the evening. I don't think we were too disappointed. Not the best, but certainly very entertaining and certainly living up to some of the hype.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an interesting, again, much like race 1, it was a very interesting race, that race. Certainly, race 2 had the all the excitement and certainly led the way in terms of how exciting a race can be. But yeah, a brilliant night of racing all the way through, and some, great battles, great guys leading at the front. But yeah, it was brilliant. It was great stuff. I really enjoyed it tonight. I'm really looking forward to next week.
Well, of course, next week we stay across this part of the border, across this part of the pond, because we move across from Silverstone in Northamptonshire up the road to Kent and back to Brands Hatch, this time for the Grand Prix circuit. And that'll take place on the 16th of April next week, same time as before, 10 to 9, of course, for race 1, 9:30 for race 2, and 10:10 for race number 3. So, Mark, let's just quickly sum up then. Your driver of the evening for tonight. There's quite a few contenders, but who do you pick as the standout driver from Silverstone this weekend?
It's got to be, for me, Robert Plumley. There were names we were talking about before the event even began that we knew were going to be running at the front and were going to have great results. But that defensive drive in the second race was as good as you'll see. It really shows that if you're a good, safe, solid driver, you can compete in this competition. It's not all about being quick, and I thought Rob did a great job. He was fair, he was robust, didn't cause any accidents. Brilliant drive for me, and just by virtue of what he did in that second race, it was fantastic.
Yeah, do you know what? I probably could go for a lot of other drivers, but I think, to be fair, I genuinely can't disagree with that. I think that Robert Plumley did his skills and his potential proud with that one, with the second place. And while there were a lot of fast drivers behind him, he managed to keep his head when other drivers may have possibly lost theirs and potentially spun off under the pressure. But not Robert. He kept his head, kept his cool, and was able to eventually keep it on the road, and more importantly, and grab that second place ahead of some very, very good drivers. So, yeah, I think I do have to genuinely echo Marcus's call there. Robert Plumley gets our BSR TV driver of the evening for his fantastic defensive effort in race 2 for second place. And that just about wraps it up, of course. Of course, next week, as we said, will be BSR TV Carrera Cup, of course, at Brands Hatch. But the action at Silverstone is not over, because if you tune in tomorrow night on this same channel, we have the next few rounds of the iRacing BTCC Championship. The regulars all get out there to strut their stuff in the Kia Optimus to see exactly who can win those 3 races, heading towards the next few rounds in the championship. But of course, we'll see you guys next week at Brands Hatch. From myself, Scott Woodwis, my co-commentator Marcus Naris, and Steve Richardson, our cameraman, thank you very much for watching, and for everyone at BSR TV. Stick around tomorrow for the BTCC, and we'll see you next week at Brands Hatch for rounds 13, 14 and 15 of Season 2 of the BSR Carrera Cup on iRacing on BSR TV here on YouTube. But until then, take care and bye for now.